So sometimes people think, because of the way that our language has morphed when we have different nationalities, that CASA has something to do with housing. But what it really stands for, it's an acronym. It stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates. And so when there are kids who have been abused and neglected through their parents, and they're now wards of the court because they've been taken away from their parents, they're in foster care. We recruit volunteers to advocate for them. So when those kids' case are in the court, they've got an attorney. There's also the caseworker that's involved. There's the parents have attorneys, and then the caseworker has an attorney. And so all those people have an agenda. And an attorney for the child is obligated to do what the child wants. And so when children are in a difficult situation at home, I know myself, my childhood was pretty rough. My dad was both physically and verbally abusive to me and my mother. And you don't know any different. And so you want to be with your parents. And so the children, if they tell their attorney that they want to be with their parents, then that's what the attorney has to do. They have to fight, or not fight, but they have to advocate to the judge that the child wants to be with the parents. The attorney probably has multiple cases. The caseworker definitely has multiple cases. The attorneys for the parents, they're obligated to advocate for the parents and what the parents want, and to tell the judge or to explain things in a way that sheds the best possible light for the parents. And so there's no one that's really has 100% the benefit of the child in mind. There's no one in that. And so in 1977, a judge in Seattle was like, okay, we've got all these people that are giving this information, but I don't really feel like I know all the information that I need to know. And so he created a group of people, or he asked a bunch of people if they'd be interested, and to his surprise, a bunch of people said yes. And so he created this thing called Court-Appointed Special Advocates. And so
Court-appointed. I heard court-appointed.
Yeah,
like, it seems cute. So,
yeah,
but yeah,
court-appointed.
Beautiful.
And so our advocates are a party to the case. So that means they can see everything that the judge sees. They can see everything that a counselor writes. They get all the school information. They can get medical records. They get everything. Wow. Whatever's going on with the parents. Their job is to meet with the child every 30 days. Every 60 days, they have to meet with them in their home. So wherever they're living at that point. That could be a foster home. Lots of times now they're called resource homes. A resource home could be a non-relative, or it could be a relative, so an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, a brother, a sister. And potentially they could be still in the home with mom and or dad.
That's got to be awkward.
Yeah, in what's called a safety plan. So that can be, those are challenging.
Definition of a sticky situation.
Yeah. So they meet with the children. They understand what's going on, and then they write a report that goes to the judge. And each time the case is in court, they give a verbal report to the judge. It takes about 18 months, roughly, for a case to go through the court system. There are certain stages that they have to meet, and so it's about every 3 months or so that they're in court, and it just takes that amount of time. The goal of the court and the goal of CASA is reunification with the parent. Like, that is the stated goal until it's not. So if, for example, there's a parent that has been ordered to go to, drug and alcohol counseling, and they're not going, and they're continuing to make bad choices. Eventually, if they continue to make those choices, the CASA is going to recommend to the court that something else happen. Maybe it's an adoption. Maybe it's a guardianship. What the CASA, the special advocate, tells the court isn't law. I mean, the judge doesn't just say and do what the CASA says. But they do take it into account because the CASA, or the special advocate, they are only focused on one case. So it's either one child or one set of children, so brothers and sisters.
Wow.
For 18 months.
And in Oregon, so I wrote some stuff down just to make sure that I didn't say it wrong. But in the average case in the state of Oregon is 29 months. So if everything goes smoothly, it's supposed to be about 18 months.
Wow.
But the average case length in Oregon is 29. In Eugene, it's 41. And the reason for that is the level of maltreatment in Eugene is some of the highest in the state. And so it's just taken a long time for those parents to work through those things. And the court is giving them time to, giving the parents time to get their act together, but eventually either they eventually get it together or something else happens and it can take up to 41 months.
And so if you're okay being just like breaking it down, getting a little away from the technical so you
Sure.
don't have to worry about anything. So you mentioned that you came from a household that wasn't in the best circumstances.
Yeah.
Was that formative in all of this?
Yeah. I think for me, looking back on my childhood, there's a lot of stuff that I've probably blocked out. And as a kid and then going into my adult years, just working on just trying to always be the best, because if you do the right thing and if you are achieving, then the chances of you getting in trouble are much lower. And so, yeah, that really, it's affected a lot of my life. It's affected my relationship with my kids, with my own kids.
And just being hyper aware of any sort of.
Yeah, I mean, I think we are all a result of the environment that we come from.
Yeah, accumulation of so many conscious and unconscious decisions by
Absolutely.
thousands of individuals.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you really don't get to pick which one sticks. It's the
No.
oddest times and experiences, the oddest people you see once sometimes, or
Yeah.
Yeah, and so just as much as I tried not to be like my dad, and I still think that I wasn't, there was still, residue there, short temper, that kind of thing. It didn't help that relationship.
You seem like a Zen monk. Is it something you've worked on for a long time?
Oh yeah, still working on.
Longer and longer fuse?
Yeah,
Or lower amount of explosives at the end of the fuse.
Good question.
I think that I've become more aware of what triggers me, but also more aware that not everything needs to be perfect, or that I need to control everything, that things are just what's going to happen is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I'm much more relaxed about things than I used to be, but it's taken an incredibly long time. Yeah.
Yeah, that was just a lot of information, and I'm just kind of curious, like, how long have you been doing this for?
At CASA?
Yeah.
So I've been there a year. I'd spent 25 years in outside sales. And
that's a big shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it is and it isn't. I'm in the development department, so a lot of what we do is fundraising. Mm-hmm. So it's not that big of a shift, but I spent 25 years in outside sales, and I wanted to do something the last 8 to 10 years of my career, and as a working person, doing something that would make be significant, which would make a difference. Mm-hmm. And so I went back to school, got a master's degree in leadership, And then this opportunity with CASA came up, and it just seemed like a really great place. And it's been everything that I had hoped it would be. I love what I do. I love the people I work with. I'm part of a really great team. So yeah, and I know that even though I'm not doing the work, I'm not advocating in court. What we're doing allows children to have that advocacy.
Yeah,
and that's important.
People need to facilitate work being done
Right.
for the maximum kind of output.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that leadership was a degree. That's fast. Did you?
Mm-mm.
I mean, how did you?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. What?
Yeah. So they've got a couple different tracks, like nonprofit, and but I took a general track. It's just
Leadership.
leadership.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Be a great
Yeah,
course.
what was it like? I mean, some elevator pitch of what your college experience was like.
Yeah. So I was at Bushnell. I think the biggest thing that was beneficial to me was that at the beginning, they asked us to write down our definition of leadership, and then throughout the course, I wouldn't say every class, but I'd say a majority of the classes, there was something woven into the curriculum that you had to talk about what your definition of leadership was. And so the opportunity to refine that over time, to really, throughout a year, to really be thinking about it, reading really good books.
Do you remember what you started and ended on? Then I'm curious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I can't remember what I started on. For me, leadership is, I had it written down and I can't remember. But essentially, it's providing opportunities for other people to perform at their best.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's about serving the people I work with and giving them the encouragement and the structure that they need to really perform well. And if they're performing well, then we're doing well as a group.
So just people like you wouldn't want money sitting in something that's just depreciating. But you'd want to be like, oh, it's in a bond or T-bill or something. It's like it's essentially accruing. It's becoming more. So with a lot of people, it's mismanagement, misleadership. Makes a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, my goal is to encourage and support and provide opportunities for people.
What's it look like in the more minutia, though?
Yeah, that was my question
it's,
too.
It's talking vague. I personally get kind of lost.
So here's an easy one. Our events coordinator started as, I can't remember the title. It was basically general admin. It was like the most entry-level position in our organization. And she moved from that to volunteer coordinator, which means that it's her job to communicate to the community the need and to get those people into class and qualified to become special advocates.
Big job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coordinating volunteers.
Oh my gosh. And especially like that type of volunteer, like you can't, it's not just like, hey, come and
go play with puppies at Green Hill.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. It's very
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's a very difficult job. Now her role is events coordinator, and we were in a staff. We had a staff lunch the other day, and we had a new staff member join. And I realized as we were going around the table that like what her growth, like how she's come from one place to the next. And so we had it was her 90-day review because it was her new position, and as we talked, I let her know, I'm like, I see you taking my job in 5 to 8 years. Like if you want to, I want you to see yourself in this role. Whether it's with CASA, I think it'll probably be with CASA because she has some history, personal history. She had a CASA. But my goal now is to help her understand what my job is, so that when I'm ready to step away, she can step in. And in my opinion, she's much more qualified than I am to do that, because she's already done everything else. And so that's kind of a real world example. Like, I'm letting her know that I see this in you, and I'm going to push you and challenge you in ways that might be uncomfortable. There's some things that she's not super comfortable with, but we're going to work on those, because if she can get better at those things, then she's going to be a rock star. She's going to do a great job. And for me, that's leadership, like helping her see what the opportunity is for herself, not only with CASA, but potentially in another organization, that she can do this. That's just one example.
So
it's a good trait for a mentor type situation. Yeah.
Thanks for letting me peruse your notes.
Yeah.
And to keep it off like the more difficult subject of like, how do you find and like motivate people to go like do good when it looks like them looking at potentially a horrible situation and knowing that they can't immediately make a difference? It seems like, so Kenzie and I, Good Marketing Works, and like, primarily lately we've been making videos, but what we really do is help just businesses connect with what they need. And it seems like volunteers, and just again, thanks for letting me peruse your notes. That was very helpful. Funders, obviously, every nonprofit, not-for-profit, even regular businesses raise money in various ways. But the volunteer side, I'm just more or less curious, what's it look like? How do you do it? Like, how do you get in people's like, hey, you could make a difference? Because everyone like hears the call to action and says, I want to be a good, but
it's challenging.
It's a long commitment.
Yeah. We ask for a 2-year commitment, even though the stats are that it's going to be longer. We ask for a 2-year commitment. And in most cases, when people step in to take on a case, they see it to the end. I mean, that's really what the goal is.
You must get so attached to the kid.
I was going to say, I can only imagine the type of people who would take on that type of thing. Like, they're probably people who care quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is challenging though, because you have to stay objective. So you're not allowed to give the children anything. Like you can't gift them.
Jeez, that would be
You can't take them. You can't take them anywhere. You can't drive anywhere with them.
Yeah.
And so you're really observing, and then when the term advocating, you're advocating. So if you think that they need something, you're either talking to the caseworker, you're talking to the judge, you're advocating, you're looking for it. So for example, like let's say they want to play sports, soccer, baseball, whatever it is, but they can't afford it. Finding like, okay, here's a scholarship, and then you let people know that this is available so that child can do that. Or you find ways that they can be transported to their sporting event so that they can participate. But to go back to your question, we try everything. Our new volunteer coordinator, she started going to holiday bazaars. So people are going there.
Bazaars.
People are
I've
going.
heard of Bazaar's Bazaar.
Like a Saturday market.
Like yeah,
Okay,
like
cool.
Holiday market.
churches, or I think there was one.
Oh,
in Springfield.
I know,
Genius.
churches.
You have a smart person.
Yeah.
So I think there was one at Springfield where you have
Props.
Yeah.
Props to her.
you have a booth. You're selling your knitted goods or whatever those things are, and so there's people coming, and so then we just have a booth there. In the summertime, we do a lot of the different events that are going. So Pride, Asian Festival, anything that's going on in the community, we'll have a table there.
You're just out there.
We're just out
Was
there.
it churches that made you say, oh, because...
Yes.
Yeah, because it's like people who go there, like our lives are ruled by narratives that we tell ourselves.
Right.
And if you go to church, you
Right.
see yourself in a certain light that it seems like a lock and key fit of like an opportunity to do good. Because we've known a couple people actually that feel like they're not having impact and they just want to. And so giving people, extending essentially an opportunity of like, you can do tangible, visible, undeniable good. Like just even feeling this role, like however, like that's really that like essentially a powerful thing to offer to people, but it's so tricky.
Yeah. So
It's good framing for it. Yeah.
we have a program we've got a business program. It's called Business Advocates, but we also have one called Faith Advocates, and they're things that I've been working on for the last year, and we're starting to get some traction. And so we have a church, the Cove, that we partnered with. So the advocate can't give anything to the kid that they're advocating for, but CASA can give things to the advocate to pass on to the kid. So it's a little bit of a loophole.
It's kind of like politician, how you can,
Yes.
And so
in a good way though. It's like positive though.
So the kids wrote down what they wanted, gave it to their CASA. We took that to the Cove. We had 177 opportunities, 177 different kids, and they provided gifts for all of them, and multiple gifts.
That's great to hear.
And
And do you showcase that in some, or like how does
So
I'm not sorry, not to cut you.
Yeah, no. So so to kind of go along with the idea of like how do we get advocates? So spoke in church, let people know who they were buying gifts for, like what that child could look like. So then the idea is going to be to go back in January to share, hey, here's a real life example of a child that you bought gifts for and that, is thankful for it.
The child comes in, or a video?
No, it'll be me speaking.
Okay.
So we'll get a story from one of our CASAs, and then I'll share.
Makes it more tangible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I'll share that. And at that time, the goal will be for us to have a table out front. So if people want more information, then they can come talk to us. And so we're efforting to partner with churches to do that. We're doing the same thing with businesses. So with businesses, these partnerships, what we ask for is that they partner with us in 3 ways, kind of 3 touch points. We believe that if there's 3 things that we're 3 ways that we're connected, then there's going to be dialogue, and we're going to be communicating with each other. It's not, we don't want a transactional relationship.
Yeah. What are the 3 ways, just so I can frame it?
So
I'm dying to know.
So there actually is no there's no guidelines as to what those 3 ways are.
What are some examples?
So examples.
Yeah.
So would one way for a business, an easy way is to give, okay, to sponsor an event. Another way is to allow us to come in and speak to your employees. Another way would be to put on an event. So Coal Fire, as an example, is one of our business partners, and so they put on a pint night, and we had a table there. So they allowed us to speak to their guests, anybody that came up and wanted to talk and find out about CASA. Plus, they gave a portion of the proceeds to us, and so that's 2 ways right there. I can't remember the 3rd way that we're connected with them, but we want it to be as easy as possible for the business to connect with us. We don't want there to be strings that it has to be a particular way. And we want to have that connection for 3 years so that we can grow and develop. It's kind of like being married. The more connected you are, the more committed you are going to be to each other. And so with our businesses, and then the same thing with churches. So like with Cove, they're not an advocate yet, but the goal is for them to become one. So they participated in the Christmas. They let us speak, and then maybe a couple times a year they're promoting the fact that we have a class getting started, so that people know what's going on.
So can I raise, unless you had, my biggest thing would be like, is there a way, because like dream scenario is like, if Apple, with hundreds of thousands of hypothetically employees, if every single one who is, digital watched like you give a speech or like, a very passionate thing, and then in person, like that would be so much, and they would have so much to donate. If there was a way for it to like hypothetically, like, just like living in the real world of like make sense for shareholders, just understanding, like, is there a way to go after hypothetically publicly traded, not B Corps? We worked at Arcimoto, which probably could do that because their incentive is a benefit corp over just shareholder value. Is there a way to go after these like very large essential companies? Curious.
Yeah, I mean, so CASA is a national organization. There's about 1,000 of them across the United States,
Wow.
but we all operate kind of like a franchise. So Lane County is responsible for Lane County. So, and from a development side, the difference between what we do and what a lot of other nonprofits in development are doing is that our responsibility is to raise dollars and people.
Mm-hmm.
So we have somewhere in the range of $250,000 that we have to raise just from local businesses, local individuals, from our events and that kind of thing. Our budget's about $1.5 million, so we get some grant money. We do get some money from the federal government, but not very much, and we get some money from the state, but again, not very much. But we also have to raise people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Nike, for example, let's just say Uncle Phil's like, yeah, University of Oregon, I love Lane County. I'm going to write you guys a check for $10 million. That would be great. We would love that. But it wouldn't impact the need immediately because we would have to find volunteers. We can't hire them. We have to find volunteers to be able to. And so the same kind of thing, if there was some kind of event,
Mass event, tons of
that happens in Lane County, and that people go, oh my gosh, we need to volunteer for CASA, and we got an influx of 500 or 600 people. If we didn't have the funding, we wouldn't be able to supervise them, and so we have to raise funding and people at the same
and they're really
time.
kind of separate, or have you found ways that they do end up coming in together? Because if the place donates and they speak to their employees, like, does it? Yeah,
Yes.
I'm curious your experience.
Yeah, so IMA Insurance is in Springfield, and they've been a huge supporter of ours for a number of years, and so we have people on their staff that are special advocates. We have people from their staff that are part of our board and our committees, and then they also give us money. And so that is, they are one of the kind of the ultimate. Another one that I know right now, for us, we love them, but I know that it's challenging here in town is Bigfoot.
Especially lately.
Yeah, Bigfoot is... they are near and dear to us. They have board members that are part of our board. We've got other people that are part of committees. They give us a lot of direction, and they have been incredibly generous to CASA.
Yeah. Is it tough are they still striking? It's been quite months now.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. So as an organization, we're very thankful for what they do for us.
Mm-hmm. I understand that. How come you can't pay people to do that role?
I don't know the answer to that. I think that it's just the way that it's been set up. That
How much freedom do you have within your the franchise, quote unquote? Just you keep using that metaphor, not that it's like
I don't know that is.
And I'm just going to move this a little bit. You
Yeah.
can say wherever you are.
I don't know that that's the best analogy. It's just the one that I can think of. But we do have quite a bit of autonomy. Our executive director is amazing and has. There are some things in the works. Our board's commandment to us is to be the most. I wrote it down here. Don't want to say it wrong. To be the most impactful CASA in the state of Oregon. And so
A little lively competition.
Yeah. So one of the things that happened last year, we started a pilot program with 4J School District that kids that are in foster care that don't have a CASA. Well, first of all, kids in foster care do worse in school than any other demographic. Even kids that
no
are
stability at the core level.
Even kids that are homeless do better than kids that are in foster care.
Wow.
And so we started a program that we would have education advocates meet with these kids 1 to 2 hours a week. I think there was 12 kids to start with. and it was an overwhelming success. There were one of our advocates. The first day she went, I think she was with either a first or second grader. Her job was to help her work with her math. Mm-hmm. And within the first minute, she realized that she couldn't count and she didn't recognize numbers. And can you imagine if you're in school and you don't know what a 1 looks like, you don't know what a 5 looks like.
Be isolating.
Yeah.
Well, it would just be bad for like the self-esteem too. Like that's.
Yeah.
So by the end of the year, she had to stop her from counting when she got to like 110 because she was just going to keep going. So this is our second year. It's an official program in the 4J school district, but the other 15 school districts want to be a part of what we're doing. And so when we're the only CASA in the state of Oregon that's doing this, and one of only maybe 2 or 3 in the entire country that are doing it. And the thing that's exciting for me is that there are some people that, I would say the majority of people, they say that they don't have time to be a CASA. And that may be true, but in most cases, it's the emotional wear that they don't want to deal with.
And who likes admitting that they're emotionally?
Yeah. And in our society, I would do the same thing. It's easy to say I don't have the time. But most people have time to go to a school and help an elementary school student or a teenager with reading, with math, with just helping them make sure that they're getting their homework done. Most people have the ability to do that. And what we're finding is that those people that signed up to do that last year are now wanting to be a CASA. Yeah. And that there are people who have been a CASA and maybe they had a particularly rough case and they need just kind of a respite. It's a place for them to step into.
That's amazing.
And the other 15 school districts want us in their classrooms, but it's a funding issue. Funding for training and support.
Ah, that makes sense.
And so
the training is all is there a digital component? Just because, like as a human being, I'm always applying, like, how can we get involved where we are actually like maximizing the leverage that we've built up of, like, we have these skill sets. Like, I'm just trying to figure a way where we can essentially...
good marketing.
Yeah. It feels good to do good. Hey,
really?
You can farm good karma. It's, there's no law against it.
So, I know that we use digital media, and it's not Zoom, but yeah, we're trying to maximize that kind of thing. A lot of it has to do with there are some materials that part of the funding is having materials. We use something called Slumberkins. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They're social emotional support animals. They're stuffed animals, and each one has kind of a different emotion attached to it. And so we provide those as part of the skill set. But to be able to support the volunteers in the schools,
just showing her,
they're really cool. To be able to support those volunteers in school, we have to have staff that are going to be able to support them and make sure that they're following up. Because what happens is, what we're trying to create is a system where we know what's going on with those children. And so if we have a volunteer that's reporting to a staff member, and then they have to make sure that they're reporting to somebody else, so that all that information is being processed for that particular child, so that any kind of report that's given to a judge has all the information in there.
Do you use transcripts and recorded audio? It just seems like, especially, I've never used it, and AI has been something where I'm like, it has no real use. But then someone showed Limitless. It's just essentially just records the audio. It has a transcript that's pretty accurate.
Amazing.
It saved a lot of time.
Amazing.
We have pretty much all the CASAs use a proprietary software that tracks all that stuff.
That's nice.
That makes sense. Like, just because you're dealing with like illegal stuff and
a lot of personal
information and things like that.
So
it's a tape recorder. No one can take it off an SSD or an
So, we are a pretty efficient organization. I mean, we have over 200 volunteers, and our staff I think we have 18 or 19 staff is all we have. So, we're pretty efficient.
It's a great metric to kind of like look at it by. It's like, clearly you're making an impact. Otherwise, how would you have 200 people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 19 staff, 200 volunteers, and it's just around 400 kids that we can impact.
Wow.
But that's still only 40% of the need.
Right.
And is there a reason a CASA can't have like essentially 10 to 2 kids at once?
It's mostly time, just and then just the emotions of it.
So how much time does it take for someone just
about 10?
In case
Yeah,
someone
that's a good
listening,
question.
in case someone listening, I mean,
Yeah.
the oddest things, or someone who knows someone.
10 we say 10 to 15 hours a month is about the amount of time that it takes. It generally takes a little more time at the beginning, because when you first take on a case, you get all the discovery, you get every piece of information that you kind of have to sort through. And then as the case goes on, stuff comes in, slower. You're visiting the kid once a month at his home, and once a month, or once every 2 months at their home, once a month someplace else. So maybe it's at school. So, that's maybe 2 to 3 hours right there over a 2-month period of time. The rest of it is you're at home, you're taking notes, you're writing reports, whatever that
Taking
looks
notes
like.
based on
Whatever you've observed, maybe
just
you've
during
had,
those 3 meetings, you take notes the rest of the time, or
yeah. So any kind of interaction. So let's say you have you go and you meet with the kid, and they're like, "Yeah, my teeth hurt." Well, what's going on? When was the last time you went to the dentist? Oh, I don't think I've ever been to the dentist. And so the special advocate is taking notes on that. So now they're going to start trying to figure out, okay, have they been to the dentist? Who is the dentist that they've been to? Can we get them to a dentist? And so you're going to be keeping track of that kind of information, so that when you either get them to the dentist that they've been to before, or you're getting them to see somebody else. And so it's just a matter of keeping track of, what's going on in the case.
And does CASA get any way of essentially getting the medical records for, essentially imagine the state or the government just said, oh, hey, the service you're providing, it would be people could essentially attend to 2 kids if they didn't have to deal with any sort of bureaucracy getting those answers. They could just see, oh, they've never gone to any dentist. I'm curious, and I'm speculating. I feel free to shut this down. I'm just so curious.
I think it's, there are people that carry more than one case, but they're typically CASAs so they've got a case and it's not really going anywhere. There's things that are happening. The parents are needing to do things, so they might take another case. We do have CASAs that take multiple cases, but it's generally someone that's been doing it for a longer period of time. The first time you do it, there's just so much going on. It may not seem like it, but it's like, think of when you first start juggling. You start with one ball, throwing one ball in the air. Then you start throwing 2 balls in the air. Then it's 2 hands and you got 3 balls. And pretty soon you're able to do it. And you're like, okay, I can do all of this. It's the same thing with being a CASA, because you got your regular life, and then you're trying to keep track of what's going on. A CASA, a special advocate, has they can go in and get any medical records from the doctor, from a dentist, from a counselor. They have access to all of that. There should not be anything that stops them or prevents them from doing that.
That's nice.
But there is a process of okay, who is the person? We've got kids in Lane County that moved from Washington, that moved from Montana or Utah.
I was living in a world where all the states, and it's not just Peace. I've just had Peace Health my chart my whole life, so it's all there. It'd be nice.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So you're trying to unravel this knot that is the child's life.
Got a little chilly. And not to be come on, but I'm just gonna play the bad guy and just say at the end of it, what do they what would the advocate walk away with in terms of, it could be that's skills that they could plan to continue a career down that field. Or essentially, because one of the things I noticed on there is I think 53% of volunteers are under 60, which I read as 47% of them are over 60.
I was wondering
So,
what
yeah.
the demographics were of like
So
who,
it's like if young people could see it as an investment in like, oh, I can continue to like, or
Or an
if it's
advantage
15
for, like-
hours a month, maybe there's a job that pairs like, oh, it's the same skill, like it'd work complementary, more or less like
nursing.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Kenzie and I are sitting in the situation where it's like, do we have time? It's like every single pretty much waking second of the day, we're just kind of like planning to continue to have a stable life. And it's essentially with the way the world's going, it's like younger people, unless you hit some sort of jackpot, need almost everything they do. Like that's why essentially a lot of people, the loneliness like epidemic is unless there's a way that you and your friend have a way of like, oh, this will help us the stability of the future. It's friends fall off a lot lately. So it's like, is there,
You know, I don't know that there's anything that would be a transferable skill other than just the ability to
emotional intelligence.
Yeah, I mean,
Understanding of the legal system.
Yeah. Essentially, your trustworthiness of a notary, like it's.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it wouldn't be linear. Let's put it that way.
What is?
And so, yes, there are
It's a
definite
character piece.
there are definite skills that one can get from being a CASA, and so it's maybe it's learning to go in and speak to someone in authority about something that you need. Maybe it's
Absolutely.
advocating, it's public speaking because you're in court with lawyers talking to a
Makes my
judge.
palms a little sweaty.
It's the hardest thing for our CASAs to do. I'm gonna
I'd
go on a
probably tear
tangent.
up if you're talking about a kid that you like. I mean, I'd be like,
Oh,
Judge,
yeah.
you gotta trust. I mean, is it quite common? But then they're objective. It'd be,
Yeah. So we, within training, everything, we talk to our CASAs about being objective. And so all of their language, so for example, instead of saying, Judge, you asked Mr. Johnson to go to these parenting classes, and he's only been to one.
He didn't go to any.
Instead, it's Judge Love. Mr. Johnson was ordered to go to parenting classes. He's been to one, and so it's just facts, and so when the CASA gives the report, the written report, the judge reads it. Then they're going to ask for a statement. CASA is going to give just kind of the a basic statement. It can't be emotional. It has to be like this is what I think, and. So, I mean, there's definite benefits if you're in life. Those are definite benefits, but I don't know that there's something that, okay, I'm going to be a CASA and that's going to help prepare me for this other thing. The fact that you're advocating for children and that you're speaking up in court and that you're dealing with other adults, that can't not help. But I don't know what the line would be there.
Totally.
And you,
Good feels.
I mean, you have to be 21 to be a CASA, and the fact is, whether it's here in Lane County or somewhere else in the United States, the demographic is largely women, and about 50 to 60%. Somewhere between 50 and 60% working versus not working. So
Really, half
Yeah.
of them work and half of
Yeah.
That
them
makes
retire.
That's
not.
That's fascinating.
I could totally picture a lot of retired people being very into it.
Yeah, more or
Yeah.
less. I was thinking people who have jobs, just the conflict of like, oh, you need to go here at a time. Like a lot of jobs might not be like allowable to be like.
lots
yeah,
of self-employed.
That makes
We
sense.
have
that makes sense.
the class I went through. We had I think 2 self-employed women, and so they have businesses here in town, and then they've got the opportunity to advocate because they got a business that's running on its own. I mean, they still have to look after it, but
Is one of them Katie Brown?
no.
Okay, she's starting up something
Okay.
just kind of related to health and
teens
taking
and
care
such.
of homeless teens.
Okay.
And she's come on the podcast a couple times.
Oh, fantastic.
So it seems like someone who
Yeah,
like, and
she's
she's she runs her own business. So it's just
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she's ran many businesses.
yeah, she does.
Yeah, she's a
Um,
very cool lady.
But and any, I guess, what are your thoughts on the way that we've kind of come at this? Because it's essentially like I just hear all of what you're saying, and I'm like, that'd be great if I could help. But and not like to take myself out of it, like something like 40 or 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So if I hear how to get more people to like essentially help, it's just not confining it to only people who are wealthy enough to, like having it be like everything plays some sort of role in building a person's life, even if it is character.
Yeah.
It could be recognized as they were a CASA member, and like that could be a respected qualification at jobs.
It absolutely would. You're right. It is a challenge. Not only depending on the job that you have. There, at certain points in my life, I wouldn't have had the ability to do it because I spent 25 years in sales, 25,000 miles a year on the road, 30 plus nights overnight. That's
Quick
when
break. What did you sell?
I sold insurance for 11 years or 10 years, and then for another 11 years I sold beauty supplies.
What kind?
I work for a distributorship of the L'Oreal Corp. So Redken, Pureology, Matrix,
And
L'Oreal Professional.
Did you ever read O.G. Mandino's The Greatest Salesman in the World?
I have.
What did you think of it?
That was good.
So you as a CASA member couldn't give the kid that book and be like, you
Right.
don't have to read it or anything, but
No.
that's a pretty formative book.
Yeah, no, I couldn't.
no.
And so we struggle with finding certain demographics too. So white women across the country are predominantly the people who are CASAs. And we do everything we can to reach other demographics because those kids are represented probably far more than a white child is. And so whether it be American Indian or Hispanic or Black, whatever, we struggle as an organization to attract those people. And I don't know if I'm right, but in my opinion, a lot of the reason for that is that the people that make up that demographic they don't have the same amount of free time. They're working to be able to provide for their families. And so
their kid isn't in that situation.
Right,
Yeah, wow,
exactly.
That's fascinating.
And so, one of the things that we talk to local businesses about, especially businesses that are kind of outside Eugene Springfield, is we want you to be a part of what we're doing because there are kids in your community that are experiencing these kinds of issues. And that does resonate with those businesses. But it is challenging to get into some of the other communities, the ethnic communities, and be able to find people that have the capacity to be able to participate. And so it is challenging, and we would love to have all of our special advocates be a cross section of the kids that we represent. But that's not the case.
Yeah. Is there a model for CASA in other countries, such as prisoners in Switzerland, or one of the Nordic countries? When they get out of prison, the government can subsidize their pay at companies. They pay 50% of the salary to encourage companies to take on bringing a former felon on. So it's like, it seems like that could almost be like, if someone's a CASA member, part of their salary is subsidized, or it's okay for them to work 30 hours, but they still get full benefits at the start. Like it seems like there's a lot. So I'm curious, what do other countries? Is there any sort of model?
CASA is a uniquely U.S.
problem and solution.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. What do you think is like the way to stop it from even like being needed?
That ship
Like
sailed.
why is this area like just so bad? I'm just so curious.
Well,
Yeah, good point.
it'd be hard to know, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so take what I'm going to say with a grain of salt, because I don't know. It's difficult to say what is it, but when you look at the historical drug use within our community, we're looking at third and fourth generation parents of drug use, and some of that drug use has affected people's DNA, and so when you go 3 and 4 generations where you have physiological things that are happening to people, plus you have the fact that if great grandmother was doing drugs and was more focused on themselves than they were on their child, there was any structure, any kind of home life, any kind of patterns that one would want for their child to have are broken. And so then that continues to get broken along the line. And so now we're in a situation where you have kids that are being parented by this legacy of just bad choices for whatever reason.
Unfortunate situations.
It is. One of the
hard to
things
say it's a choice after 4 generations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we feel really strongly about is that our education advocates, the reason we feel it's so important is, and the data is somewhat muddy on this, but by and large, if kids are reading and doing math at the 3rd and 4th grade level when they're in that 3rd and 4th grade, so they're doing it at the level they're supposed to be, the opportunity for them to graduate high school and be a productive member of society is exponentially higher.
Were you going for astronomically?
Yeah, whatever the word is.
I believe it is. Yeah.
So by having our education advocates in the school helping those kids
It's a great program.
get there, we believe it's an upriver solution to something that's down the line. But if those kids, the one I mentioned to you earlier, okay, now she understands her numbers, now she can do math, right? So if she has the self-esteem that comes from being able to, and who knows, maybe she may be a prodigy when it comes to math and do really well, but she just had a bad start. The level of confidence that comes from that, and being able to socialize with your peers because you're not concerned and you're not afraid and you're not embarrassed by what's going on, hopefully you're going to be able to be around a better group of people in school. And by being around a better group of people, you're going to have a better chance of succeeding in life. And you're not going to find yourself, in a place where it's just, okay, this is what my mom and dad did. This is what my grandparents did.
Feels inescapable.
Yeah.
So last far out kind of question proposition is, have you brought in the Amish community or just skilled trades? Because in terms of building your confidence of your own abilities, it's a lot easier to do it. I can do this. I can do like a skill rather than I can do math, like these abstract concepts that are taught in school that then somehow translate to. So I'm like, man, it seems like people
What age of child do you guys typically
0
work
to
with?
18.
Oh, okay.
So in that whole
Gotcha.
range, it's like learning skills or trades, essentially, things that are immediately, you see your value of your work. And that's for me personally, that's been the most meaningful in terms of, wow, I actually feel like some sense of accomplishment, some sense of mastery over skill.
Plus, it just feels good to do stuff with your hands.
And people are really motivated to teach skills to others in terms of apprenticeship, in terms of so many ways. So I'm curious, is it? And I know it's very new. It's 1 year old. It's not like, don't you have the trades yet? More or less, I'm curious, openness to that, and especially the Amish community. My understanding is that they're very, and I don't work in a trade or a skill.
Sure.
I do tech for a living.
Yeah.
But,
So just to so I've been with CASA for a year. We've CASA's been in Lane County since the 80s.
I meant the school program.
Yeah, the
Wasn't
school
that,
program. Yes.
a year?
Yeah, it's only a year. So it's interesting that you say that. We did a luncheon. Every year we have a luncheon where we talk about the need, and we have table hosts and they bring their friends. And so someone brought this business, Paramount Ironworks, and so we've had conversations with them, and they, the owner actually employs a lot of ex inmates, people that have had a criminal background. He hires them, and one of the main reasons for that is that it's very hard work, and they can't get hired anywhere else. So it's
an aluminum foundry or a steel foundry?
They do. I don't know all the things that they do, but I know that they work on like in a lot of the mills. So the different things that need to be repaired in mills, that they'll do
the big machines,
and things. Yeah, and so we started an initial conversation with them about, because they're very interested in doing an apprentice program, and so I don't know what that will look like with us. Because we have kids for a period of time, and so once that case is kind of gone through, our job is to make sure that the kid ends up in a situation that's going to be what's best for them, whether it's back with their parents, with adoption, guardianship, or whatever. But I want our special advocates to know that there are opportunities out there for the kids that they're advocating for. Most of the kids, the demographic is most of them are under 13. But we do have
the prime learning age, though, like not for heavy machinery,
right,
per se, but for a lot of skills, and
And so it's just a matter of finding those situations that are going to make sense for the business, and letting our special advocates know that this is an opportunity. One of the things we did last year, it's slightly different, but we put together a brochure, or there's actually a brochure within the city, the county, that does this.
There's a brochure within the county that does this.
So the county has, there is a document. Let's just go there. There's a document that talks about all the ways that a kid can learn how to do finances, like the different opportunities to learn how to, like, open a bank account and handle money and that kind of thing. And so that's a tool that our special advocates can use to help those kids be able to get plugged in, to learn how to do things that maybe their parents aren't teaching them. So the next thing would be to find a way, create something that, okay, here's an apprenticeship at this business. Here's one at this business. It's a great idea. And so then it's just a matter of finding those connections and making sure that
hours of planning.
Yeah. I mean, what is the best way to get these opportunities where people want to help, to get them connected? And sometimes it's just the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. Then you got one business out there that's like, we would love to be able to do this, and over here we would love to be able to have some, but there's not a connecting point. And so it's trying to find those connecting points. But I think you're absolutely right, to be able to connect kids with something, with some, electrical or mechanical, or working with wood, whatever that is. The level of self-esteem that's going to give them is off the chart. To be able to know that they've got a skill and that they built whatever that thing was that they built, that level of self-esteem is going to really help them.
Yeah.
I agree.
Specifically, if the traditional like metrics have like, I mean, no kid really, unless it's like they have stable home life and they're like nutrition and all these things, and still it's hard for everyone to be like, Jesus, calculus already, and it's like, so yeah, just working with it just feels natural. It's just getting back to the roots of being a human, the core dopamine system of, oh, my family will survive if I know how to some level of shelter and food and stuff.
Well, and I think with the economy the way it is, that university and college is not for everyone. To be able to have a skill and be able to walk on a job site and build a house, or wire, or whatever that is, moving forward, I think those are things that are really going to help provide a stable income for people.
Partner that with opportunity cost of, hey, instead of going to school, you know how to manage your finances while you're working in that trade. You can actually be significantly further ahead than people like myself who got a college degree, and I'm like, I have because I switched fields, I have nothing to show for it except debt. It can be definitely a pretty tough situation. So not walking kids down that path.
Absolutely.
I love hearing what you're doing, the approach you have, the open-mindedness to, because I like trying to throw people. You came in here with a certain disposition. You were very professional. I'm like, okay, what if I try to throw a couple curveballs? You handle them very well. You nothing's off the table when you're trying to help reduce suffering in the world. It's a pretty small thing of like, but some people are closed off to ideas of like,
No, I mean,
so I commend you.
Thank you. I've been there a year, and like I told you, I mean, leadership is something that's important to me, and it's trying to find ways, like, how can we work together? How can I help my program staff understand about the opportunities, and how can we provide them with opportunities that are going to help them with their kids? And these kids, they got no say in what's happened to them.
Except I was going to say no say, except with their lawyer. My bad. Horrible thing. But yes,
I mean, they did not ask to be brought into the world. They did not ask to have this kind of stuff going on. And unfortunately, their parents, I'd say, the vast majority, probably nearly 100%, like, they don't want to be in that situation either. They're not, it's not like they have this mean streak and they just want to be mean to their kids, or they don't want to pay attention to them or anything like that. They love their kids. And so how can we help this situation so that it's a win for everybody? And I don't know the answer to that, but
question.
It is a big question.
Opportunities and knowledge of just like how certain things can be unwound, or like certain systems, and that's fascinating. You have a very, very large Sisyphus stone to continue kind of rolling up. So thank you for taking that on. And I really do mean that, like, if there's a way that we can help where our work is leveraged, in the sense of we do video work, and we do that because, it's
very marketable.
It's so
it's
efficient.
Really easy to connect with people digitally, which is a lot more scalable.
Well, the whole idea of me, meeting with you is just, however I can get the word out. How it doesn't. We have these business partnerships, and we talked earlier, and I've had people come up to me and say, "Okay, like you really need money, right? Like that's what you really need." And I'm like, yeah, but we need people too. And so, I've got a salon that a salon owner that I worked with when I was in the beauty industry. She owns a small salon in town, and she wants to partner with us. And I have no idea what that would mean financially. It doesn't really matter to me, because she is engaging her clientele that might end up being people that could be special advocates. And so from my standpoint, it's a partnership that's worth having. It doesn't matter if it's a single person business. If they are speaking to the community and they have influence in the community in some way, that's a win.
Cool. So I figured out how we can be essentially helpful. Is if you or the executive director, anyone, would be willing to just in a concise way, like a minute or two, lay out like who a prime candidate, like, hey, like, this is what we need, This is what it'll look like. Here's how you start that pathway. Because then those advocates in the community, like the hair salon person, there's like they can say a certain amount, but they're not living it. They really don't know. So if they can just direct it, like, oh, there's a 1 minute video that like then you can know if it's like people need that, like, okay, now I have resolution of if I am fit for this, rather than like training everyone to be able to walk people through the entire process. And it could be a longer video, but I'm like, essentially, like,
You do both.
yeah. But I mean, yeah, for time, like making longer videos takes a long time, but like making a really brief, concise, and when you're hearing from a leader or a decision maker at a company, it really holds weight. And everyone who hears it, they say, oh, okay, this person's standing behind what they do. They're showing their face. They're saying it unscripted. They're not reading a teleprompter. They're just maybe being prompted by a conversation. It's like, that's what I've found to be hands down the most, like, the emotional resonance of a video like that. It just does what it sets out to do. And if it sets out to help figure out if someone is like the right person for that, and like make it easy to understand what they're getting into, and then they come talk to your team, it's like they already know. It's like, yep, like imagine someone who comes in
Primed.
warm, primed. So if there's a way that we could do that, I would definitely be willing to like take the next steps and help them out.
Okay. Yeah, I know on our on our website we have there's a couple different videos we have on our website. We do have something about our business advocate, but it's I think it's 5 minutes. So we interviewed some of our business advocates in town and talked to them.
And have you interviewed, because I assume you can't interview kids, but previous youth who have had a CASA member, who are now 19-year-olds, who could speak high praises? That would go miles.
Yeah, we at our luncheon we had someone that we had 2 kids share a video, share on a video at our luncheon, and one of the kids that shared, he was at the luncheon. So yeah, it was pretty powerful.
Yeah, I mean, if you could coordinate it where you or a leader at your company, and ideally also a former CASA benefit, like someone who had
even
one,
an advocate,
like,
honestly.
Yeah, and in that, like, I mean, really, that'd be the trifecta. If we could just, and really, it could be filmed in a short amount of time, 2 hours, with like, you know, like each person 30 minutes with a little like prep time and in between. Yeah, that could be done. That's something I like. Yeah, usually.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Boom, we connected, and we found a way to efficiently be like, hey,
I know, this is so awesome. I'm so stoked.
That's the goal of the podcast, is to openly communicate, like, what's it like connecting with businesses and finding a middle ground where it's like,
because that's exactly everything you said. I was like just getting so excited. I'm like, there's always so many win-wins, and there's just all these like different opportunities of like people can be creative of how they do that.
Okay.
I like that.
Cool.
Yeah, beautiful. And the others, like, it could be getting ahead of myself, but a video of
We're
essentially
excited.
for businesses in the community of like, here's what your help would do. Like, here, you like, you just make it more tangible than like a story of like, just, so much information can be relayed in a short video, especially if the speakers are like, it's their lived experience, or it's the thing that they've been so passionate about. So it's, that's what I enjoy
Someone
doing.
can land the plane quickly.
Yeah. So I don't actually understand it. I started laughing. I was like,
yeah, you were out of the room.
oh,
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
You mentioned it.
So my mom and my wife say that I ramble, and so that, like, to get to the point, they say land the plane.
It's nice. I like that kind of code.
You're lucky
word.
I didn't learn that early. I would have been, land the plane. My turn to get cut in for no reason. Yeah, that's beautiful. And yeah, I definitely ramble as well. But you're a very eloquent speaker. And does that seem like something you'd hypothetically just be up for entertaining further? Or just...
Yeah. The challenge right now is we've got a major event February 28th, and it's all hands on deck.
And what's the event?
Our casino night. And so
For fundraising.
It's our major fundraiser for the year.
So if we could essentially, in the intermediary, if we could somehow make a brief video that would essentially increase the amount of people that show up to casino night, like, like, hey, we're open. I like making short videos that I know has a positive impact on the world. Like, just knowing, hey, there's no cost of replication or time that I have to then put in afterwards. That video can, especially if you can make one that can live for a couple of years and be consistently used to send to people, direct people to there, or passively getting...
What do you guys need right now? So if like anyone listening or anything like that.
Gosh.
volunteers, money.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's what it boils down to is
Mhm.
volunteers and money.
But yeah, the non-boiled down stage, like casino nights coming up. You're
Yeah, I
looking
mean-
for people there.
Yeah, who gets to go to casino night?
So we have sponsors. So we have table sponsors. They get to invite 8 people or 6 people. So it's a table of 8 total. And then depending on
And to sponsor table costs, like they buy the table.
They buy the table,
and they get
yeah.
to invite people.
yeah,
Great.
so I think we've got 1 table left at $5,000.
And that's in 2 months. So you really, that's not your big deal. Like that's pretty handled.
Yeah, we've got. There are some other levels of sponsorship that you don't get a table, but you get tickets. There's some different tiers. If you go to our website, it's all listed there. CASA -lane.org. And then.
I mean, this has gone well over. Now, my understanding is Kenzie told you it's like a 45
Yeah.
minute.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, like thank you for being gracious with
Yeah.
your time and like essentially like I feel like I just got a full understanding at the end. Then I'm like, okay, implementation hypothetically, but really I didn't look at your website even a blink before this, so I'm gonna digest some of that and then
Yeah.
it'd be great to just start a group text and just kind of
Yeah.
explore options. It doesn't need to be before February.
Okay.
We're in no
Yeah.
time crunch. Like
I
we
mean-
have to make the video right
Yeah,
now.
if
We can
anything.
do it in summer. It's really
Well,
beautiful
I mean,
time to film.
probably our casino night is this is our 21st year.
Mhm.
It is something that the community is aware of,
Mhm.
and I think we'll do well with our tickets. Once they go on sale, they'll go on sale in January.
Mhm.
So then the community can purchase tickets and attend.
Mhm.
But we do in June, we have a pickleball tournament that's coming up. So there may be some things that we could do that way that would really, I think, could help.
And really, the things that we could do that would take a year to pay off would be to just go film the casino night and film that and just showcase it to make it, wow, I want to, like everyone who sees it,
Yeah.
like that's it, but that takes a year to pay off.
Right.
But hey, like that's on the table. Like,
Okay.
like we're just in the exploring options phase of how much time we can commit. And then like, do I see it as something that's like, okay, that would be impactful. Cause that's the goal. Like,
Yeah.
we want to do what helps.
Well, that's great. I mean, I'm super grateful
Yeah.
for the time that you guys have given us and given me, and your
Likewise.
desire to help. So, thank you.
Yeah, comes in handy because we enjoy making video. Like we enjoy like the creative aspect of our job, and then when it's like, oh, cool,
It's
I'm
really
doing something
cool
I
to
enjoy and it has a positive outcome.
Yeah.
It's like, great, finding those opportunities, and then so this
It's
would
just
be
the
great.
best.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time. If you have any kind of closing thoughts of go to CASA, this will be
Buy tickets in January.
Yeah, this
it
is a
sounds like.
low fidelity version of what we hope to make of like, oh, people know exactly everything about it. It's
Yeah.
like, a couple second call out when you talk to people.
Yeah, I mean, our website has everything that you would want to know. There's videos about what it means to be a CASA, how to become a CASA.
That's like lane CASA. Because again, I haven't been to it.
CASA-lane.org.
CASA-lane.org.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Pop it on the screen.
And then
No editing.
And then, yeah, I mean, our casino night, so that they can go to our website to find tickets for that. Pickleball tournament in June. We've got in April Child Abuse Prevention Month, and so throughout Eugene, Springfield, at local pubs and coffee shops, there'll be items on the table that are like bringing that to people's attention. It's not a fundraiser; it's just a way for us to draw attention to what's going on.
Can people donate like all throughout the year? I assume.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. We'll do one clap at the end too. Sync up